Good Wednesday afternoon to you. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks for joining us on Sports4CLE. Plenty of Browns to talk about. A little later in the show, we will be joined by Tim Bielik from cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer, talking plenty of Browns. Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield. What does the trade market look like? We begin by talking Browns as well. We're going to head to the voicemail of Truth and Reason to get this started. This one just about the Browns and the moves they're making.
Hey, Dave. Great shows, always. But a few things real quick. Hats off to Andrew Berry. Now, here's a guy trying to bring a championship team to Cleveland. He's a shrewd operator when it comes to whatever the rest of the NFL thinks. Plus, he's here to bring a championship, not just to collect a paycheck like the rest of the guys did. Number two is John Dorsey still active with the Detroit Lions. He can come get his buckaroo now at a reasonable cost. And three, Kevin Stefanski, if he drops the ball with this offense, he's got to go. He has got to go. Thank you.
All right, as always, we appreciate all of our voicemails. Let's welcome in G. Bush, host of the Barbershop, 92.3 The Fan, Saturday mornings, 8 to noon. Make sure you listen to him. I always do. G. Bush, I think what this says is Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, by the Deshaun Watson move, know they got to win. If you don't win, you don't have jobs like they have for very long in the NFL.
Oh, listen, most definitely. They got to get it done. Got to get it done there. When you're talking about whether or not, the pressure is on. The pressure was on when they had Baker Mayfield. The pressure was on when he got injured and all that stuff happened. But now it ratchets it up. Yes, you got Deshaun Watson, and all that brings is more pressure. That brings those expectation levels. And the Cleveland Browns have not done well under expectation levels in terms of 2019, 2021. And what they were able to bring to the table. So Kevin Stefanski, the number one question I have is, how does this offense look different? How does this offense translate? Is it going to be more of three tight ends? Are we going to see that he wants to bring something new to the offense? Or maybe Baker was not able to accomplish what his objectives were in his offensive scheme. So what I'm looking for is Deshaun Watson and the RPO stuff. One of the things I read an article in the Athletic by Jason Lloyd. He talked about how Kevin Stefanski critiqued him on his play fakes and also on his RPOs and run pass options. And I think you'll see a lot of that. And I think the Browns will be devastating in those areas, because those are two areas that now when you run RPO with Deshaun Watson, he always has the ability to be able to pull that and keep the ball and keep going and definitely extend play. So I'm looking forward to all those things. But the objective for the Browns is, we have to realize it is playoffs. Definitely playoffs. Anything short of that is not going to be acceptable. And a lot of people have even higher expectation levels from Deshaun Watson, from Coach Kevin Stefanski, and the Browns moving forward because of what they look like in their star power.
Yeah, and the one thing we've said, and you and I talked about it last week, needed to upgrade the passing game. Well, one way you do it is you get an elite-level quarterback. Now you got to build around it as well. It's kind of interesting. Mary Kay Cabot from cleveland.com, frequent guest on our show, tweets this out. Odell Beckham Jr. has not slammed the door shut on a return to the Browns. It's unlikely at this point, but he has not closed it. Remember, he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, so he's coming off another ACL injury. The other thing that we heard, G. Bush, is that Deshaun Watson reached out to Jarvis Landry when he thought he was going to go to Atlanta. So those are two names that could, in fact, be coming back.
I'm a person. I get my silver and my globe out, and I get my crystal ball out, and I try to prognosticate these things. But I'm a big fan of having Jarvis Landry back. If you're listening, Jarvis, come on back. We can get you together. I'm the assistant general manager, G. Bush. We'll get you together, and I'll get you over to Barry, and we'll sign this thing up. Now, if you can get me Jarvis, I'm all for it, bringing back Odell. I'm not petty. I have no problems with it. At the end of the day, he has his ring. He got to show that he can actually play ball. And he actually got an opportunity to show he has a skill set and that he's a team guy. So all of those things are water under the bridge. If he wants to come back at a nice little even level, go ahead and do that. I have no problems for that. I think it was well overstated that Odell Beckham Jr. was some sort of cancer in the locker room. It was overstated, and I think it was kind of dramatized that he was some bad teammate. Look how many people came out in defense of Odell Beckham Jr. and said he was a great teammate. I've even talked to sources in the locker room who said guys were sad when he left. Jarvis was definitely one of those guys on the record that was sad that he left, but lots of guys supported him. For me, I'm all past the drama stuff. You know what I'm about doing here? I want to win.
Yep.
And I think Barry and I think Stefanski and D and Jimmy Haslam are all about winning. If you win it and if you can help us win, we'll take it.
Yeah, and again, I've been on the record. The only thing I had against Odell is the way that it went down, getting out of here. Just the way he got out the door at the trade deadline. Only problem I had with it. And again, he needed to do what he needed to do. All right, let's move on. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about the release of J.C. Tretter. Let's listen to this.
Hi, this is Mustafa, 50-year Brown fan. Just wanted to get your opinion on something that kind of ran across my mind. In hindsight, do you think that possibly the release of J.C. Tretter could have something to do with the Browns' decision to court and, in fact, sign Deshaun Watson? Do you think there could be some politics involved with the Browns releasing Tretter? Because, I mean, he is the president of the National Football Players Association. So do you think there's any politics involved there? And the second part of my question, how do you feel about who's going to replace him? I mean, he's been the anchor of that offensive line for, 8-9 years. And, you just don't replace a guy like that and have the same continuity that you had in previous years. So just want to see how you felt about that and, what's your opinion on possibly any politics involved with the two. Thank you.
And Mustafa, as always, appreciate the voicemails. I don't think the release of J.C. Tretter had anything other to do than with the number on his cap. And they saw Nick Harris play really well against the Packers and thought maybe the young fella, that's a guy they drafted, so that's one of their guys. Bill Callahan has been working with him in practice, trying to identify him. This is what happens on good teams. They have a lot of money tied up in their guards. So normally it's the tackles that you pay. Those are the premier offensive linemen. But you got Bitonio, you got Teller. They just had too much money tied up into it. Good teams have to recycle through it. That's what the salary cap does to the NFL.
And the Browns and fans need to get used to this because when you're paying Deshaun Watson $230 million, you're paying Myles Garrett big-time money. Denzel Ward is going to get some big-time money here coming up in a little bit. And obviously, you have your running back who you signed up in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt in the backfield that got big paydays. You're going to have to live with trying to draft guys, finding diamonds in the rough. This is what Pittsburgh has had to live with. This is what New England has to live with. Teams that are good teams that go deep in the playoffs, that have star quarterbacks, you're going to have to find diamonds in the rough, especially when you're talking about positions that are not premium positions. Your left tackles, your defensive ends, your cornerbacks, your quarterbacks as well. So you look at Nick Harris. He's 23 years old, a guy who has played a little bit in each of a couple of seasons, the last few seasons. They drafted him, could play guard. They moved him in guard a little bit. But now they feel like he's a guy that they can give him something at the center position. And when you have two anchors like Joe Bitonio and Teller on the other side, those are the two best. That's the best guard tandem in the league. You're going to be able to still stay solid right there. And if you can get Conklin to come back, also Jedrick Wills played hurt last year. I know he had a little bit of a ankle injury, and trust me, when you're playing the offensive line and you kick slide and get some of the best guys in the world on, that hurts you. That hurts you a lot. But I think they believe with Bill Callahan, and that's a great point you brought up. When you got Bill Callahan, That's what you got him for, to kind of churn these guys through, get guys better so you don't miss a step. And I don't think the Browns up front will miss a step with Harris at center.
Yeah, I would agree. And you know what? They're gonna have to go out and draft a couple more offensive linemen, because offensive linemen in football are like pitchers in baseball. When you think you got enough, you go out and get a couple more that can play, because you're eventually going to – we saw that firsthand with the tackles last year. All right, before we go to break, let's take a look at this. These are the rankings by CBS Sports of every AFC team after the first wave of free agency. They ranked the Browns 11th in the AFC. 11th in the AFC after adding Watson and Amari Cooper. They have the Bills, Bengals, Chiefs 1, 2, and 3, Chargers, Titans, Ravens 4, 5, and 6, Broncos, Dolphins, Raiders, and Colts 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yeah, I don't know exactly how they had the Browns ranked that low. I'm going more with the guys that out in Vegas that set odds that have the Browns going from plus 4,000 to plus 1,600, which would make them about the fourth or fifth best team in the AFC. That's more likely than the 11th. I'm not seeing the 11th.
I got to get this off my chest a little bit too. You know, this thing with Deshaun Watson, we get Deshaun Watson in Cleveland, right? Why was it was such a great move for the Saints or the Falcons if they would have got Deshaun Watson? Why was it a no-brainer and a great move when the Carolina Panthers would have got Deshaun Watson? All of a sudden, we see this Cleveland thing come into perspective where, you know, they don't love the move all of a sudden. To put you at 11th after some teams that the Tennessee Titans, the Dolphins, last time I checked, they still had Ryan Tannehill. Last time I checked, they had Tua. The Browns, how do you get the best quarterback, right? How do you get probably a top 3 quarterback? You already have the best running back tandem. We just talked about your offensive line and 2 of the best guards. You got an elite pass rusher that's top 3 and a top 3 corner. How you rank 11th? I'm looking at how is that possible? Yeah. I guess it's one of those. It's the Browns thing. You know, I always tell people the national media, you're going to have to still come down here. The Browns will be on a lot during the season. They're going to be flexed a lot. They're going to be in all the primetime games. I'll take 11th. It's going to take some time. We don't know. Maybe they're putting it out there that Deshaun Watson might be suspended. But I even like Jacoby Brissett as a backup. I even like the backup move they brought in. By no way, shape, or form are the Browns 11th. I got them at least in the top 5, you know, after the Chiefs, after the Bengals, and I'll actually throw the Bills in there too. I think the Browns fall somewhere after that. But they have a chance to get to a point where they're better than all 3 of those teams.
Yeah, when you have a quarterback who makes people around him better, which is what Deshaun Watson does, and that's the difference. You know, I was one of the guys that said, you know, Baker can win, but you're not going to win because of Baker. And I still feel that way. Baker Mayfield can end up being a very good starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not going to be top 10. He's not going to be top 5. Deshaun Watson is a clear upgrade. And for that reason, I think the Browns have a chance to do really good things, without question. All right, G. Bush, we got to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we're going to go back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Baker Mayfield. That's straight ahead. Stay with us on Sports4CLE.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns football with G. Bush, the voice of the barbershop from 8 to noon on 92.3 The Fan. All right, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about Baker Mayfield and Browns quarterback situation.
I'll have a comment about my awesome Cleveland Browns. I love Baker Mayfield. I got Baker Mayfield tiles all over my house. I knew Baker Mayfield's time was up, just like the last person that was saying He had one more year. But all the childish acts. Think about the Browns' history with quarterbacks. Johnny Manziel, childish. All the veterans we had, childish. Didn't work out, weren't professional enough, or just came here just for the money. We haven't really seen what this man is going to do for us yet.
And G. Bush, that's very true. And it got to the point where Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry felt they had to move away from Baker Mayfield. And they probably felt like they had to do it now because in the NFL, head coach, GM, quarterback are all tied together.
And when you look at it from a standpoint of looking at Andrew Berry, looking at Kevin Stefanski, excuse me, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry knew that you no longer have 5 years to just make your mark in this league. Before, people were patient with you. You had a couple of draft classes that you at least got, maybe a few free agent classes. You could afford to tear it down to the studs in the first 2 years and implement your whole mind state, your whole organization, and your game plan for this whole culture and the organization that when you first got there. And this is in the mid 80s into the 90s. Nowadays, you don't have that time. If you look at what the Cincinnati Bengals did, they shifted the way people think about how you go about building a team and what you can do early. The Bengals got, Joe Burrow, and they drafted Jamar Chase. If you look at their roster, they didn't really do anything crazy. I love Henderson at the defensive end. I thought he was a good acquisition, and I think he played well in terms of getting them some defensive pieces and parts. But if you look overall, the Cincinnati Bengals didn't really have that many new pieces. And they went to the Super Bowl because their quarterback was competent. They had explosive guys on the outside, and they had a nice running game. So they were a really balanced offense, and you could do that. And they were just drafted in the top 3 a couple of weeks ago. So when you talk about Stefanski and you talk about Berry, they learned from the predecessors. They learned from all the other guys who got fired in 2 to 3 years and were quite, to this day, Hugh Jackson is still surprised that he got fired. He's still surprised by that. And he should have looked at the people that came before him. You should have looked at Shermer. You should have looked at Mangini. You should have looked at Jasinski. And you should have understood and read the tea leaves and understood that, hey, I got to get some wins in here now. Forget what you're talking about. That sounds nice, building a program and a culture. It's about those wins and losses. And I think Stefanski and Berry understand that now. And I think they have a sense of urgency. And you can see that in the way they're going about this roster.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. On the subject of Baker Mayfield, one guy that knows a little bit about the history and what went on, Joe Thomas. Take a listen to Joe Thomas on Baker Mayfield. This is from The Herd on Fox Sports 1.
I think people in Cleveland were so starved for a winner. They were starved for a franchise quarterback that we all wanted to believe that Baker could be that guy. And so what happens is you have people that really believe Baker was the guy, that were the most vocal pieces of the fan base. And then the people that maybe were a little bit skeptical or didn't like him for whatever reason, or just didn't think he was that good of a quarterback, they weren't willing to be vocal because they were afraid to be wrong, right? You don't want to be wrong for the first time in many decades about the position that you need most when you're a Cleveland Browns fan that has dealt with 1-31. And I think initially that was part of maybe why you heard a lot of negative reactions from the Browns fans is not only are you bringing in a guy who's dealing with a lot of controversy in Deshaun Watson, but you're kicking a guy out of town, Baker Mayfield, who a lot of fans felt like he was one of them. He wanted to be in Cleveland when nobody else wanted to be there. He was somebody that was all in on this team. And he famously said while he was throwing Duke Johnson under the bus, hey, you're either with us or you're against us. You're either on this train or you're not. So now as the information that surrounds around the trade is getting out, there's a lot more people who are being vocal in Cleveland saying, hey, maybe I didn't really like Baker all that much because part of the reason I loved him was because of how much he loved Cleveland. He wanted to be here. He was willing to sacrifice everything to bring us a championship. And maybe that was not the case like we thought it was.
And G. Bush, the reason he wanted to be in Cleveland was because Cleveland had the number 1 pick. He wanted to be the number 1 pick. It's not a big surprise. And I don't hold that against him. I really don't.
Number one picks get endorsement. Number one picks get attention. Number one picks get, the shiny new objects. Number one picks are on TV a lot. I think one thing that we have to look at is the psyche of the fans and the fandom in Cleveland. We carry a lot of baggage. Our baggage is the fact that, when our team got took, it devastated a lot of people. When that team got taken, and Modell moved this team out of here, it destroyed the psyche, the confidence, the swag, the whole mental aspect of being a Browns fan. So now, instead of going and looking at this thing objectively and say, can you play, can you play, can you not play, can you play? We're looking at arbitrary things like, do you want to be here? I never understood. He wants to be in Cleveland. That is the number one checkoff box. If you ask a fan, do you like a guy? He wants to be here. Well, that's great. For the guys that's judging and general manager, and they don't care about that. They say, can you play? Forget if you want to play here. I'm paying you to do a job. Are you good at what you do? And I think sometimes as fans, we take that so to heart. We want to embrace him. We want to be able to say, yo, we got a guy. He's just like us. And at the end of the day, that part of the game matters so much less than we account for. And Baker, I'll give it to him. Baker is a guy who talks a really good game. But I will always say this too. You know how sincere you are by the way you leave and what people say after you're gone. It's quiet as heck right now. It's all quiet on the Western Front right now. And it looks like he's going to start the year as a backup quarterback, which will be probably something that's very humbling to him. I will say this about Baker. Can he get it done somewhere else? Yeah. Lions is a nice place. I think Seattle's a nice place. But he's going to have to really work on believing and actually acting out what he's saying he's about. You got to be about it. Guys in the locker room know a fraud from the real deal in a heartbeat. You got to live it every single second, especially if you're a quarterback. And I just don't think he quite understood that here. Maybe he grows and gets it somewhere else and he can lead a team.
G. Bush and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. Other side of the break, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. About the whole Baker Mayfield situation. Also take a look at what the Browns have done in free agency and some other opinions about the Browns' moves. Sports4CLE, will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
We continue talking Browns with G. Bush, host of the Barbershop, 92.3 The Fan, Saturdays from 8 to noon. Well, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one about what to do with Baker Mayfield.
I'm just curious about the urgency to do something with Baker Mayfield. It just doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest in other teams trading for him. But why would the Cleveland Browns want to just cut him? They still have to pay him. Wouldn't it make more sense to just keep him on the roster? Worst case scenario, our two quarterbacks go down. At least we still have one in the pocket. But clearly later on in the season, some quarterback is going to go down and someone might need Baker. I don't see a reason to give him away for a sixth-round pick. He doesn't even have to dress for our games. As long as he's ours, he's ours. So I just don't understand why everybody's so anxious to get rid of him.
All right, as always, appreciate the voicemails. And G. Bush, what are your thoughts on that? I kind of went down that same road, just in thinking, do you hold on to him until somebody gets hurt? The problem is that's a guy that clearly doesn't want to be here. He would be your third quarterback because you can run the same system with Brissett as you run with Watson, which is one of the reasons I like that they went out and got Brissett.
All right, I'll give everybody a reason why you just can't bring him back. First and foremost, it's $18 million, right? $18 million is on the books, and the Browns need that $18 million. They need that $18 million to upgrade the rest of the roster at certain other positions. So they're not going to allocate that much money to one position after you've given, Deshaun Watson his money. Second of all, have you ever had to be in a room with your ex-girlfriend for long periods of time? It just doesn't seem to work out like that, let alone live with them. The locker room is a thing. He is not stepping foot back in that locker room. You got to think about it from a pride angle. I'm the first overall pick. I just led you to the playoffs a couple years ago. I was hurt. You went and got the other guy who you said wanted to be leader. And you're going to force me to come back to the locker room and wave to all the guys who are pretty much happy that I'm gone. It'll never happen. The NFL is about relationships. And that's why I understood the relationship factor with Odell Beckham Jr. At the time, they chose Baker Mayfield over Odell Beckham Jr. That's why Odell Beckham Jr. had to go. They chose who they was going to ride with. We're going to ride with Baker. So OBJ had to go. Now, can you imagine if they're going to ride with Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield's just sitting around? It'll be a nightmare. Baker would never agree to it. His agents would be wise never to agree to it. And it's just better that both sides get a clean break, start over, and just be able to move forward with a clean slate.
Yep, I agree with you. All right. Experts debate free agency. Which team has improved the most? This is from ESPN.com. Mike Tannenbaum says the Cleveland Browns have improved the most. Dramatic upgrade at quarterback overshadows everything else. Watson gives them a chance to meaningfully compete for the Super Bowl each and every season that he stays healthy. Goes on to delineate, you got Cooper replacing Landry, Chubb, Hunt, and Njoku. That is a former general manager's perspective. Now, admittedly, a guy that not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but that gives you the mindset of a former GM with the upgrade.
And the upgrade is supreme. The upgrade, this isn't the stock version. When you go to the car lot and you gonna get you a Mercedes or a BMW, you want to get a Jaguar, you don't get those with cloth seats. You don't get the cloth seats on that. You make sure you get the protection plan, you get the wheels going. And the Browns went and got the supreme upgraded full package. They got it ready to go, and it's ready to get on the highway. When you look at in terms of, I just went back and just checked out some of the cut-ups. I mean, the precision on the passes, the ability to extend the plays, just this deep ball accuracy. I used to have a problem with the Browns. I would say, when was the last time we completed a deep ball? I mean, we just can't seem to complete a deep ball for nothing. And the fact that people are underestimating the fact that the Cleveland Browns gave up no players to get Deshaun Watson. None. They already had the best running game. Now, when we run play action, you got to respect it. Because now Deshaun Watson, instead of running the boot and looking to throw to a tight end for 2 yards, he's taking off with that. Now your defensive end at home can't chase down the line of scrimmage. Now when we run the stretch play to Chubb or Hunt, guess what? That defensive end is not there. We could cut that all the way back and cross the grain. So it's ramifications when you talk about scheming and doing different things. And Kevin Stefanski right now has been quiet. You know why? Because he's cooking up all kind of plays in his playbook right now. All the stuff he wanted to do for the last 4 or 5 years with Kirk Cousins, or he wanted to do with Case Keenum, or he wanted to do with Baker, he has a free reign. He's right now drawing up stuff on his whiteboard right now, just feeling good about himself, smiling.
Oh, yeah, he's got a whole stack of papers to add to that playbook right about now. All right. This is from the Bleacher Report. One off-season move every team could regret. And for the Browns, we've talked about it. It was releasing Jarvis Landry. And again, that was another one that it was a money-driven cap issue. So it'll be interesting to see. It's a guy that they could try to figure out a way to bring back. So it will be interesting to see how that plays out. But we've talked a little bit about Landry earlier in the show. You and I both like him.
Hey, Jarvis, if you're listening, if you're out there, it's the assistant general manager. Hey, take the 6 to 8, take the 6 to 8 million. You've made your money. You and Jadeveon Clowney need to talk amongst yourselves and realize your brother, Odell Beckham Jr., you saw what happened when he got a quarterback. You saw it, right? 1 year, got the ring, got it done. Don't miss out on this. Don't miss out on this. You're going to have an opportunity to do something special. If you thought you wasn't open before, you forget about Amari Cooper being on the other end of you, another technician, another guy that is one of the best route runners in the game. You're going to have a full complement of guys like that are going to upgrade you. The ball's going to be right on you. You're going to catch it in stride. You're ready to go. This is going to be a great year for the Cleveland Browns. Please don't miss it. Over a couple million. Come on, return my voicemail and talk to Jadeveon Tulu. The offer's still on the table. Come on back.
Andrew Berry might be bringing you with him when he goes and tries to talk to Jarvis there. All right, before we go, we're going to head back to the voicemail, the Truth and Reason. This fan not happy about the trade. Let's listen in.
Browns fans kind of gave Pittsburgh a really hard time about Ben Roethlisberger, and I was just wondering why all of a sudden that goes away just because, that guy basically is now on the Browns. That's all I got.
All right, and as always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. I can't tell people how to feel. I get it if that bothers you. Again, you and I have talked about it. Bottom line is, this move was made. There are no criminal complaints against him. We'll see. They're still taking depositions. Let's wait to see what comes out of the civil things. Bottom line is, if you don't win in the NFL and you're Andrew Berry and you're Kevin Stefanski, you don't have your job for very long.
That's it. That's all. I think sometimes in society, we've placed these athletes on a specific pedestal. These things that happen in our society, they happen all across multiple spectrums. Not condoning anything, but when we look at athletics and we look at sports, when you're a billionaire owner, you look at those things and you go to a court and you go to a judge and you say, hey, is he going to jail? And if they say no, your next thought is, okay, well, let's talk about football. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is. It's football. And when you look at Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski, if they don't win, somebody else would have did it. If the Browns didn't take Deshaun Watson, there was 6 other teams waiting in the wings to do it. Now, I can't tell you how to feel about it, right? I can't even rationalize it for you. Some people are not going to move off this topic. That's just not for them. But everything ain't for everybody. But if you are a person, you could just wait and see, look at it, wait till the civil case happen, just like wait for the criminal case happen. You don't have to make a decision on Deshaun Watson today on March 23rd, 2022. You got a lot to do, and Deshaun Watson has a lot to do in his career to show you that either he is that person or he's not that person. All we say is, don't be surprised if any NFL teams in professional athletics move forward on the football field, because that's what their job is to do, move forward football-wise.
Yeah, and it was actually 12 or 13 teams expressed an interest. He cut it down to the 4 or 5 that were bidding for his services. But again, I'm not in any way condoning anything. Just wait and see. Let the process go through and be completed. G. Bush and I got to take one more time out. Other side of the break, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. A fan says he's got the perfect thing about what being a Browns fan is like. Sports4CLE, I'll have that when we return. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Welcome back to Sports4CLE. We continue talking Browns football with G. Bush from 92.3 The Fan, host of the Barbershop Saturday mornings. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. This one from Ron Byer, a frequent voicemailer.
Dave, thank goodness most Cleveland Browns fans have experienced the amusement park Cedar Point in Sandusky, Ohio. We have no ownership in the park. We do not control what rides are put there, but we pay our ticket and we go for a ride. The extreme highs and lows of the roller coaster. We might love it or hate it. We have to deal with what is there to experience because we have no control over it, and we don't know what decisions are going behind closed doors. This is what it's like being a Browns fan. Many changes and decisions have been made this past week, and we as fans have to deal with today. We have no control of the past. Because of the moves, ownership is going to be put on the hot seat, and many tough questions will have to be answered. Players and coaches are going to be held accountable and will have to perform at a high level. The future starting today is up to the Browns. We as fans will continue to be there to experience the highs and lows of the ride called the Cleveland Browns.
All right, G. Bush, hands in the air. We're getting ready to go on the roller coaster that is Browns season, buddy. Yeah, it is. That's well put.
First of all, I got to give him a round of applause. I love the analogy. I'm an analogies guy. You're spot on. Spot on for that because think about the highs and lows that we've had. We start off, and it's been every other year. You start off with thinking that you got a quarterback in Baker Mayfield. He's almost rookie of the year. Then you come back and you're like, wow, we get Odell Beckham Jr. And then you get Freddie Kitchens and you think everything is great. Oh, Freddie was not so good. Then you look at Odell Beckham, you're like, okay, we're going to be ready to go. He's good. He came off and, he tears his ACL. You go through these ups and downs. Odell Beckham Jr. leaves. You got Baker Mayfield. We think he's the guy, but he's not the guy. And then all of a sudden, we are rumored to have Deshaun Watson. We're rumored to be in the running. They tell us no. No, thank you, Cleveland. I don't want to be in cold weather. Then he comes back the next day and says, yeah, I'm waiving my trade clause for everybody, for Cleveland only, and we're going to Cleveland. Man, being a Browns fan right now is the most exciting thing in football. Can you imagine if you were one of the other teams? Hey, the Cincinnati Bengals went to the Super Bowl. Nobody's talking about them. They're talking about the Cleveland Browns. You know, Baker, we got a quarterback on the team, and people are still talking about, okay, well, where Baker is going to go. And we just got Deshaun Watson. I'll say, man, that's why I say Cleveland Browns is the greatest organization in professional football. Cleveland Browns are truly America's team. And if the Cleveland Browns ever win a championship, and when they do, they will have simultaneously parades all around the world in different time zones because that's how strong Cleveland Browns fandom is.
Yeah, and you know what? Get ready because there's going to be more of it too. This one's interesting. CBS Sports, which ranked the Browns, 11th in the AFC. They ranked all 32 teams' offseason moves, and they ranked the Browns with the 4th best offseason, which doesn't add up. They had the Chargers with the best, Broncos 2nd, Buccaneers 3rd. You know, the Broncos is Russell Wilson, the Buccaneers is Tom Brady unretiring, and the Browns are getting Deshaun Watson, Jacoby Brissett, Amari Cooper. And when you look at that, it's hard to argue. The Browns might have had the best offseason. Cooper and Watson addressed what was the biggest weakness, which was the passing game, especially the downfield passing game.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, there's a little cognitive dissonance going on. You can't have us 4th in that.
Right.
And an 11th over here? That don't make no sense. In terms of just the numbers, if you look at it, it's just a thing of saying, man, we like laughing at the Browns so much. We were ready to call them a dumpster fire again, but oh my goodness, this dumpster fire is not really. They're actually really good. No, they're really, really good. On paper, they're really awesome. If you think about it and you say, all right, Browns versus Chiefs, player for player, I gotta say, I take the Browns if I can get that Deshaun Watson that I last saw. If you're talking about the Bills, I confidently have the Browns better than the Bills. I confidently have the Browns better than the Cincinnati Bengals, who lost to us twice last year, but I get it. Yep. I have we barely lost to Justin Herbert before when we had Baker. I have them better than them. You know, for me, I'm just trying to hold my composure because I understand that the league is the league and you can lose any given Sunday.
Yep.
But on talent, the Browns take a backseat to nobody.
I would
talent-wise, if you just look player for player.
I would agree, and I think the upgrade at quarterback is substantial, and I thought with Baker they had one of the best rosters. So, again, let's wait and see how it plays out. They got to do it on the field. All right, before we go, let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason one last time. This one about Baker Mayfield and the whole situation with him.
My name is Swag out here. I'm a Browns fan. You know, I've been a Browns fan since the Cardiac Kid days. I just want to say something about this Baker Mayfield thing. You know, I wanted Baker when we drafted him, you know, and like I've been watching his whole little career so far, because I'm a diehard Browns fan. I'll never trade them for anybody in the world. No. But anyway, if my thing is, if the man would have sat down like everybody wanted him to when he got hurt, I don't think we would have traded for Deshaun Watson. I think we'd have still kept Baker and gave him one more year. But him being that how can you say, arrogant and big-headed, he went out there, showed that he was some kind of a warrior, which he's not that warrior type of quarterback to go out and take hits like that. So my point is, he put himself in that situation where he stepped the game up to go get a better quarterback. We got one of the elites. We should be there now.
Agree, we should be there now. I think the Browns realized they were looking to upgrade the quarterback position just based on what he was doing. You know, it wasn't something that happened. It wasn't because of the injury. They clearly saw some things that needed to be upgraded.
And we don't know. We're not in the film room, so we look at the YouTube clips and you try to diagnose what was going on, and you try to figure out, well, is he supposed to be throwing here? Is he overthrowing guys? What happened to the reads? All of this. We forget that we're not there at practice every single day. We're not there in the weight rooms. We're not there in the meeting rooms. We're not there evaluating Baker Mayfield every day. The reality is, when Baker Mayfield was drafted, this regime was not there. And it's just like everybody else with a regular job. If you have a corporate merger or you're the owner of a building, a small restaurant sells it to somebody else, when you see under new management, that means, hey, I'm being evaluated at all times. And so you have an added bonus and an added incentive to walk with a better pep in your step, to be focused, to be locked in at all times, and to ultimately watch what you say and how you represent yourself. And I think Baker, for the first year, was on it. If you listen to you listen to Stefanski 2020, play action, worked with his footwork. He was on it. His press conferences were precise. He didn't say anything extra. By that second year, he thought he was going to get the deal. He got a little laxed in that. And I think it was part of the evaluation to say, okay, well, let's see how he handles the progression to see if you can go from 2020 to 2021 and still be buttoned up, still have the right things to say, still have the good footwork, and then we can evaluate. When they didn't give him the contract after that year, I said, okay, they're not sold. They're not sold on him. And they were going to give him another opportunity, but Baker, what turned out to be his worst attribute is that his best and worst attribute is the chip on his shoulder. Because the chip on your shoulder makes you react every way in that contentious me versus the world thing, when sometimes that's not the best way to handle business, is not the best way to handle relationships. So I think he'll have to work on that, and I think he can do it. But I think ultimately that chip is kind of what totally derailed his career in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with it. G. Bush, as always, man, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Anytime, man, anytime.
All right, Garrett Bush, make sure you listen to him. Barbershop, 92.3 The Fan, Saturday mornings, 8 to noon. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, Tim Bielik will join us. We'll continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Stay with us.
Life is getting back on track, and you can too. If you or your family have experienced financial hardship as a result of COVID-19, Tri-C can help with tuition assistance. Safely get the in-demand degree or training you need with online and on-campus classes. Go to tri-c.edu to check out our programs and resources. So, what are you waiting for? Register now for spring classes. Tri-C is where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns here on Sports4CLE. Time to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason with a question about what Deshaun Watson's contract may look like.
Comment about the signing of Deshaun Watson and his guaranteed contract. Will that contract include some sort of behavioral contingencies? For example, if he does something that's illegal and he gets arrested for that, would the Browns still be in line to have to pay him $230 million over 5 years? That's an awful lot of money. My name's Dan, longtime Brown fan. Thank you.
All right, Dan, as always, appreciate the voicemail. Let's bring in Tim Bielik. Tim, as far as if he does anything criminal, yes, that would probably null and void the contract. There are contingencies like that in all contracts. There may be additional ones for Deshaun Watson. That's the things that they're working through right now. They've agreed to the terms, but there will likely be clauses in there.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, this is going to be an interesting contract to see, every piece of information that comes out once Watson signs it. I'm assuming in the days to come when he comes up to Cleveland, gets his physical and whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. Because, I mean, again, considering everything that all the controversies surrounding Deshaun Watson with the 22 civil suits that are still pending right now with what's going on with him. I mean, it makes sense to have some kind of clauses in there to kind of cover yourself because, again, $230 million, especially fully guaranteed, is a lot of money. So there's got to be something in there, I would think, if you're the Browns, to kind of protect yourself in case something, even to a lesser extent than what's already happened, if Watson does something again. It's just going to be interesting to kind of see what they kind of work in there because, again, these are very smart guys, the Browns have, that put these contracts together.
And there are usually, those kind of things in contracts anyway that would make them null and void. And certainly with that much guaranteed money, there will be more of them in there, I would believe. All right, one of your colleagues at cleveland.com, Browns beat reporter Dan Lobby, wrote 3 moves that the Browns should make next. We'll go through them and we'll talk about them. So get a deal done with Jadeveon Clowney was 1. Target another edge rusher in the draft was 2. Check in on Will Fuller was 3. When you look at those, in your mind, is that the order it should be in? And what do you think of those?
I would almost flip 2 and 3. I think Jadeveon Clowney, number 1, is obviously a must because of just how good he was, playing opposite Myles Garrett in 2021. It's clear those two complemented each other very well. And the fact that, there's a decent possibility based on all the reporting that's out there of Clowney considering coming back to Cleveland. If you can get him, you already have a proven high caliber, high level starting defensive end to put opposite Myles Garrett again. They've already got good chemistry playing together. They already know each other pretty well. It's just something they kind of need to really finish off the defensive line. The reason I say kind of flip 2 and 3 is I'm going to have a 7-round mock coming out in the days to come for the Browns. When I look at what they still need, receiver and defensive end, I think are still going to be the top 2 in my mind. But with Deshaun Watson in tow, I think I would prioritize going for Will Fuller more, at least to me, because just there's chemistry with Deshaun Watson. You want a guy who knows how he works, knows how he operates. and just give him a security option so that, his transition, Watson's transition, I mean, from playing with the Texans, playing with the Browns is a little more seamless, and you can give him a guy who's got experience and, again, knows Watson well, because these receivers, by and large, are going to have to adjust to him. He's going to have to adjust to these receivers, making that process quicker by having one guy that there's really no adjustment period for is just going to make things happen quicker. And when it comes to finding an edge rusher in the draft, it shouldn't be too much of a problem, I think, because I've said before that the edge rusher class in this draft is the deepest position in this draft. It's not just top heavy with guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Kayvon Thibodeau way at the top, but there's guys in day 2, maybe even early day 3 that are good quality players that you could kind of slot in. For the Browns, they don't necessarily need a star, especially if they sign Jadeveon Clowney. You just need a guy who can rotate in at, be the 3rd or 4th defensive end along with Chase Winovich, and maybe a guy that you develop so that if Jadeveon Clowney leaves at the end of his contract, say it's only a 2 or 3 year deal, you might have a guy tailor-made to kind of step into that position, which is ultimately what you want to get out of the NFL draft anyway. You want to have succession plans, and that's a big reason why you would want to make sure you have something there for that pass rush.
All right, we're going to move on. This is one positive takeaway from all of the 32 teams so far from Pro Football Focus. For the Browns, it's that they get Amari Cooper, their number 1 wide receiver, before the draft, one of the league's best route runners, which will help. Field Yates tweeted out that he thought this was a steal when you look at the Tyreek Hill trade that was made today, with the Dolphins giving up 6 picks to get Tyreek Hill from the Chiefs. Getting Amari Cooper now, he's not quite Tyreek Hill, but he's a pretty darn good receiver and a legitimate number 1. Deshaun Watson knows what to do with a number 1 wide receiver. He and DeAndre Hopkins had some chemistry.
Of course, and it's going to be fun to kind of see, in the years to come, how Watson and Cooper kind of play together in this offense. And you pointed out with Tyreek Hill not only getting the trade to Miami, but also 4 years, $120 million. I know he's a better receiver than Amari Cooper. Tyreek Hill, you can argue, is the best receiver in football, even though Cooper Kupp had the triple crown as far as receiving stats go with catches, yards, and touchdowns. But you look at what he's getting paid, what some of these other guys are getting paid, you can argue Amari Cooper at about $20 million average annual value seems like a bargain almost for a guy that's, just been very consistent both in Oakland and in Dallas with productivity. He just gets things done. He's been a number 1 both places. He's been, again, productive, multiple Pro Bowls, just a reliable guy. May not be the flashiest, but, a guy who is going to get open and can make things and catch the football and make things happen after catch. That's the ideal number 1, where you have a guy where even when teams are focusing on him, he can still make plays. I think Amari Cooper can do just that for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, and again, points to Andrew Berry. He's ahead of the curve because the wide receiver free agent thing kind of blew up after he traded for Amari Cooper. So good thing with him knowing what the lay of the land was. All right, we're going to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. Again, this one about our new quarterback, Deshaun Watson.
Hi, Steve Lannon. Have mixed emotions about Deshaun Watson also, but, I feel like I'm a civil libertarian, and I really believe in innocent until proven guilty. So I think I'll have to go with that until I hear otherwise. Thanks.
And again, that's what kind of the Browns are saying. The Browns are taking a little bit of heat because they haven't had a press conference. They released statements. I think they're allowing the legal process to play out before they do any type of, let's get the media in, let's get Deshaun in. We'll see. I mean, there's still a lot that needs to be sorted out with the 22 civil lawsuits against him. So give them time to sort that out.
Absolutely. And I mean, part of the reason they haven't had the press conference yet is because Watson's right now, going through depositions. He went through one yesterday and he's going through one today. And then, obviously there's reports he could be in by the end of the week for a physical, maybe then as a press conference opportunity. But I think he got a point is like, this is still really complicated with these legal issues. He obviously hasn't been indicted yet. The grand jury said they were not going to pursue an indictment on Deshaun Watson. So that clears him by and large of criminal charges. It now comes down to these 22 cases. and just kind of where we go from there. Do they get settled, or does it go further on and further complicate the process? I think, again, we're not going to know those answers for a while. It's just going to take time. And I think that's going to be the frustrating part, is people kind of want this to end and end immediately. But, you know, the legal system doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you just got to be patient and just let these things play out. And I mean, there's months till training camp. I mean, the whole scope could change by then, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know exactly what is going to happen. Are they going to is there going to be settlements, or is this going to keep going forward? But again, it just got to let this happen and just let this kind of go whichever way it's going to go over these next few weeks and months.
Tim Bielik and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we will head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason about another position the Browns should look to upgrade. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. We continue talking Browns. Time to head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason with another area that this caller thinks the Browns need to address.
Yes, I'm a big listener of Dave's podcast, and I had a question. My name is Gaylord Barnes. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, originally from Ohio. Diehard Browns fan since '64. My question is, since the kicking game was so bad this past season, and Cincinnati had a rookie kicker named McPherson who got him into the Super Bowl, why can't the Browns go after Zerline, who was cut by the Cowboys? He was a pretty decent kicker. Or are they looking at a kicker in the NFL draft next month?
Again, as always, we appreciate all of the voicemails. Kickers in the draft, it's throwing a dart. They took Zane Gonzalez, didn't work out here. He ended up being okay as an NFL kicker. Tim, what are your thoughts about Greg Zuerlein? I kind of like him. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't mind it just because he's a veteran. He's been around. He's kicked in all these stadiums. He has an idea of what it's like to kick in different environments, especially making some pressure kicks throughout his career. But I look at also in this draft, there's several good kickers out there. Cade York from LSU, Cameron Dicker from Texas, Gabe Burkish from Oklahoma, who, by the way, is a native of Chardon, played his high school football at NDCL. So there's a fun little local connection for the Browns. But, I understand maybe some apprehension from fans about drafting another kicker because the Browns have already drafted two in the past decade. But again, you got to draft the right kicker. Zane Gonzalez wasn't that guy. Austin Seibert wasn't that guy. It's just like quarterbacks. You got to keep swinging till you find your guy, and you can't be afraid to strike out because you got to be able to have one of these kickers that can at least go toe-to-toe with guys like Justin Tucker, Evan McPherson, Harrison Butker. You have to have one of those guys who can really nail those pressure kicks from 50 plus, because with how thin the margin of error is in the AFC right now, and just how deep the conference is, any opportunity you can get to expand that margin for error with a really good kicker and make it so pretty much anytime you cross the 30-yard line, you're pretty much guaranteed 3 points, or even if you backed it up to the 40 or whatever, if you can get almost guaranteed 3 points when you cross there. When you have that margin for error, it makes, everybody's job, especially in offense, so much easier, from the play callers to the quarterback to the players.
So let's take a look at this. This is according to Ben Standig of The Athletic. The Browns may have to include a draft pick to Baker Mayfield to get the trade done. Situation is compared to when the Texans sent Brock Osweiler, a second-round pick and a sixth-round pick, to the Browns in exchange for a fourth-rounder. The move saved Houston $10 million in cap, $16 million in guaranteed salary. I'm not so sure that Andrew Berry is going to do something like that. I don't see that as being the type of move that they would do.
Yeah, I think at worst it would be kind of a pick swap, like Baker in a 6th for a 4th or something like that, if I had to guess. Because, I mean, I get why they would have to attach a pick just because, the market has dried up. Carolina and Baker seem like they don't want each other. Seattle right now seems like the only option. And right now it almost feels like a game of chicken between Andrew Berry and John Schneider to see who is going to kind of bite and, cave in first when it comes to this Baker trade. So it's just going to come down to, how willing is Andrew Berry going to be to kind of concede a little bit. It's not necessarily, I think in this case, about what you can get for him. It's making sure that he can clear that salary off. That's almost $19 million. See if you can, that frees up a bunch more salary cap room in addition to the money you're already going to get off on the cap when June 1st come across and then the Austin Hooper release comes off the books. Then you can just keep loading up with guys on 1-year deals and really give yourself flexibility, or even possibly banking some of that space and rolling it over to 2023 when you're going to need that, because Deshaun Watson's cap is going to skyrocket all the way to about $54 million. So there's a lot of complex numbers out there, but I feel like if you're looking, if you're saying it's going to be a particular trade exactly like Brock Osweiler, where all the Browns are going to get out of it is freeing up cap space, I don't see that as a thing Andrew Berry is going to do, just because he was in that front office that made the Osweiler trade back in 2017. And I can't imagine, given how intelligent he is, how much smarter NFL GMs have become since then, and all those different things, not to mention Baker Mayfield, probably a better player than Brock Osweiler was at that point. It just doesn't seem like that would happen. If it did, I'd be pretty surprised by it.
Yeah, I would agree. And the important thing to note, again, Baker Mayfield could end up being a decent starting quarterback. I don't think he's going to be an elite one. He could be a decent starting quarterback for somebody. Tim Bielik, as always, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Tim. Again, Tim Bielik.
You got it. Thanks for having me, guys. Have a good day.
All right, Tim Bielik, make sure you read him. Pages the Plain Dealer, as well as cleveland.com. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. See you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Scheduled guest, Scott Patrak, Browns beat reporter for the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, brownzone.com, and Sam Amico from hoopswire.com. That's tomorrow at 4. We'll see you then. Have a great night, everybody.